Hello and welcome back for another sing. It's wonderful to have you here. And today I'd like to do a special shout out to any of you listening from the Blue Mountains. It's been really nice to have your emails and your comments. Special shout out to Lucy and to Suzanne and to Christine and anybody else of the mountain folk who are chiming in today. We are going to learn a canon by Beethoven, which is a really cute little treat. We know his big serious works, but he actually wrote lots of these tiny little canons, and I hope that you'll enjoy getting to know one of his smaller earworms than the Ninth Symphony. Our stretch of the day is a really simple one, and it's also good for posture. I feel like I should probably stand up, but let's try. Just give the air in front of you a loose bear hug. Nice and round. Check that your feet are hip width apart. Leave those arms there. And now drop your arms, but don't drop your chest. So your chest should feel nice and open. That's what we're after, posture-wise, for singing. I'm going to sit back down and try not to lose that posture. And our sound of the day is a snort. Try that. And the reason that's useful for singing is it's a good way to remind you what the feeling of interior lift is all about. You want that feeling when you're singing because it helps you stay on pitch and helps you get a resonant sound. So just have a few more good snorts. Gorgeous. That's going to help with vowels. So our first vowel is E. And this is the exercise. Sing that E without the feeling of lift, so no snort. See how that sounds kind of dull? Now snort. Keep that feeling of lift. Sing the E again. Yeah, that's what we're after. Here we go. Now we're going to swap from E to air. So E, and so on. Try and get the difference between the E and the air to be a minimal difference, the smallest change to make the different sound. Now, for the first notes, try to stroke them rather than poking them. So not E, A, R. That's a poke. What we want is E, A, R, R. E, A, R, R, R. Now E, A, R, O. And lastly, I, E, A, O, U. The higher we go, the more you'll need that feeling of lift to get a good stroke on the start. was in there for a minute. Good. So I hope that feeling of lift is something that will stay with you. We're going to head down into our lower register now, just by semitone, still with a really good ooh. Try to keep that lift that you got from the snort, and also try to keep the sound forward. So we need 3 things as we go down into what will be a register change, probably if you're a soprano or an alto. Tenors and basses, you'll be okay with this. But we need lift, that's number 1. We need the sound to feel like it's forward, that's number 2. And for number 3, and this applies for everybody, the lower you go, the more you need to imagine that your larynx is like a little elevator carriage, a little lift that's going down just, not a whole floor each note, but just by, a quarter of a floor each note, very slowly dropping. I'm going to bottom out here, but you keep going if you can. And as we haven't done a tongue twister for a while, I thought we should throw in a new one. This one is Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Nice long cheap, because it's all about the vowels, as always. So, Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. Chester Cheetah chews a chunk of cheap cheddar cheese. All right, now we've got our jaws going a little bit more. Let's have a look at our piece of Beethoven for the day. As always, the link for the music is in the blurb that's attached to this little piece. This has 2 words. They're both in German, but they're not difficult. So at least if you don't have the music, you should be able to remember the words. It is a 3-part canon. So there's 3 separate melodies. And again, if you don't remember all of them and you don't read the music or don't have it with you, Even if you just learn one and keep repeating that round and round, then you can make some instant harmony. So learn as much or as little as you're comfortable with. The words for the round are very simple. They are ewig, dein. Ewig, dein. German for ever yours. There are two sounds in there that we need to talk about. The first is the ich at the end of ewig. How to make this sound? We don't have it in English. Try doing this. Pretend you're about to say the letter Y, as in you, but just the y at the beginning. Get your tongue into that position. Sort of, if this is the roof of your mouth, it sort of should be sitting a little bit like that. And then just run air over the top. It reminds me of the way my most delicate, elegant cat hisses. She doesn't do a full-on hiss, she just goes. So try that one. So we have ewig, dein. The next sound to talk about is the dein. That's because it's a diphthong. Diphthong is basically when you have two or sometimes more vowels together. So vowel sounds run together. We have a lot of them in English, and we have spectacular ones in Australian English. See what I did there? That was a giant diphthong in the middle. In singing, diphthongs can be a problem because they distort the sound. You're more likely to go out of tune if you make a big chewy mess of a diphthong. So what we need to do as singers is to clean up our diphthongs. No matter what language you're singing in, you need to think very carefully about one particular thing with language, and that is which vowel will you choose for each note. Every note you have should have one vowel and one vowel only that is your priority on which to sing. And really the basics of those vowels come back to what we call the pure vowels, or sometimes the Italian vowels, our friends I, E, A, O, U. Sometimes they'll be modified, like in German ewig, that E at the beginning is a little darker than our usual kind of E vowel. But generally speaking, you're aiming for one of those five. So what do you do about a diphthong? You have to choose which vowel you're going to sing the note on. It's the difference between this ewig dein with a big diphthong and ewig dein. So slow that diphthong down and break it into its component parts. Dein, if you were being Australian, which we're not going to be. Dein. Let's slow that down. Dein, dein, dein. What is it? It's an R vowel. Da, R, with the E vowel right at the end. Dein, dein. That's your choice as a singer. Do this for every piece you sing, no matter what language. Which vowel are you going to sing the majority of the note for? And any other sounds you need to include have to happen right towards the end of the note. This is easy because it's only got one diphthong, so it's good practice. Ewig dein, ewig dein, dein, ewig dein, dein, ewig, ewig, ewig dein. Now you can sing it up the octave like it's written, but I'm not going to, not for this beginning bit. I'll break it down into a 4-bar phrase for starters. Ewig dein, ewig dein, dein. Try that. Ewig dein, ewig dein, dein. Ewig dein, dein. Ewig, ewig, ewig dein. Try it from that bit. And 1. Ewig dein, dein. Ewig, ewig, ewig dein. Let's do the whole thing a few times round. Ewig dein. ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig, ewig dein. The second part. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig dein. Twice round that. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig dein. So watch in that fifth bar, dein, ewig dein, ewig dein. A little syncopated rhythm. Try that little section. Dein, ewig dein, ewig dein. And now go back to the beginning of that second little melody. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig dein. Let's put part 1 and part 2 together. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig dein. And the last part, the third part, you get a whole bar's rest for starting. So just 1, 2, and then you come in. It goes like this. 1, 2. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein. 1, 2. Ewig, ewig dein. So 2 bars of rest, 1 at the beginning, 1 in the middle, and a really bluesy note. Ewig dein, ewig dein. Try it from the beginning of part 3. 1, 2. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein. 1, 2. Ewig, ewig dein. One more time, part 3. So you get a bar of music in the beginning. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein. Ewig, ewig dein. Let's do all 3 parts, one after the other. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig dein. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig dein. And now let's try it in canon with each other. If you think you might get totally lost, feel free to pick the line you're most confident with, like the first line, and just do that round and round. I'm going to start at the beginning with you. Then I'm going to double back and sing part 1 again while you try and go on to part 2 and then part 3. Okay? Hope you enjoy singing Ewig dein with me. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig, ewig dein. Ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig dein, ewig, ewig Thanks for joining me. Tomorrow we're going to look at ornaments in Beethoven's O Sanctissima. So we'll figure out how to do some fast twiddly singing. I hope you have a beautiful afternoon, and I'll see you then.